One girl turn around and be like, oh, it's the endo for me.
Welcome back. I'm Circa. I'm 22.
25, and then this is our special guest.
My name is Renee and I am 24.
Oh, I was about to say we're good medium. That's like 23 and 24, but I'm not 23 yet. I'm still a baby. Anyways, getting into it, we're talking about breast cancer awareness month, women's health, and endometriosis. Before we get into that, discussing the topics, we should talk about a little disclaimer that what we talk about on the podcast is mainly just our opinions, our views, our educated experiences. And if we don't have any experiences with this, we try to make sure that we've gained the best knowledge that we can to discuss the topics that we talk about. But it is just our opinion at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So take it all with a pinch of salt. And we want people to watch to enjoy themselves, not to, condemn us to what we say and what we speak about.
Yeah.
So it's just a happy space, a positive space. That's what we're trying to create.
So with that, we'll go straight into it then.
Absolutely.
Straight in, no kissing.
Yeah. I think we should talk about Breast Cancer Awareness Month first of all, and women's experiences with that. I think the first thing that I want to talk about is the education about breast cancer and those kind of areas. I feel like it was something that I didn't know anything about, really, only because of my parents or stuff growing up that I would have had some light shed on those topics. But like for school or any of that, even up until this point, unless I had my own experiences with it, I don't think I would have any of the knowledge that I have now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just online. You have to go and do your own research. We don't get taught those things. We have to go and seek further education just to know about our own bodies and the risk factors that come in the future. And it's a 1 in 26% chance for our whole life, in women. And all women, 1 in 26 at some point are going to get breast cancer.
Doesn't the risk increase with age as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it goes to... It doubles every 10 years or something like that. Something crazy.
Yeah, and breast cancer actually affects men too. It's 1 in 1,000, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 100% more common in women than it is men. But it is, but it is
occurs in men as well.
Yeah, it does occur.
But we'll be looking at it in an aspect from women's health perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely,
it'd be good to be educated on it. So, if you want to, your experience.
I think with me, what I want to discuss my experiences about it is more so, mine is more of an emotional side of things. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a scientific bang, bang, bang. These are all the statistics. Yes, there's we'll talk about how to, do your own self-checks because people don't know how to do that. And then also how important it is to go get regular mammograms and stuff. But for me, it's more like I had an immediate family member who was diagnosed with breast cancer recently.
I'm so sorry to hear.
It's okay. But it was not my battle. It's their battle, but became all of our battle because we had to come together.
Yeah.
I think what I found personally, which I don't think people expect, or I definitely didn't expect, was that when you're with your family, you want to be able to you want to make everything better. You want to fix the problems that they present to you. You want to even give advice. Even if you can't fix the problem, you can say, hey, let's try go this way. Oh, that didn't work. And you can exhaust all options, with them by their side. But this was one thing that I just felt, oh my God, I can't help. For the first time in my life, I actually I don't think ever I'm a very talkative person and I love giving words of wisdom and I'm very optimistic when it comes to other people's lives. Not really with myself, but with other people, I'm very optimistic in giving advice and the brighter side of things. But this was one scenario where I just didn't even understand or could grasp the concept that, oh my God, this is a life-threatening disease that is really hard to treat. And we don't know where we are, what's happening, how it affects the body and why all of this has gone on and all the testing that could have been done earlier or whatever else it might have been. I didn't understand any of it. So because of that lack of understanding, I had no idea how to go forward and help. So it was more of just sitting back and watching somebody struggle and just feeling heartbroken because it's there. We have to deal with it. We have to get through it. We can't go back, but how do you help them through that?
It's out of your hands.
Exactly.
It's out of your depth. So.
Completely. And there is a certain amount of education that goes into knowing about what to say. But my mom is, she's a nurse. She's amazing. Like, she has the world of knowledge. Like, that woman is the nurse of all nurses. She is beyond good at her job. But even just seeing her, like, this is a scenario where she would have obviously come into a lot of contact with it and stuff throughout her time of being a nurse and stuff, and understands everything. But it's that emotional when it hits you and it hits home.
And it's
It's
personal.
like, and it's personal. You're like, all rationality goes out the window. It's like, oh my God, what do we say? What do we do? All you can do is just do it. You know, there's nothing really you
Support as
can
well,
say.
and
Yeah,
being
exactly.
there for them as well, isn't it?
Of
You know,
course.
It's hard to even know what to say if you're not educated on
That's
it.
the thing. Like, that was my main thing, was that, like, and I think that was really good that my mom was there and Leisha was there, and, you know, whatever else with my mom. But sorry, my brain just went off on a little thought. But they were there, and they were very, very good with the support aspect, and all my other siblings and stuff were really good with my mom. They knew exactly what to say to her. I just felt like at times I just didn't know what to say, which was almost even a bad feeling in itself, because it's like, why don't I know what to say? That's your mom. Like, you love her so much. But it was that all that I wanted to do every time, which, like, you can't do. It's your mother. Like, she wraps you in bubble wrap, but I just wanted to wrap her in bubble wrap and make sure everything was going to be okay. Don't want anything to happen to this person. Just protect her and make sure the world was safe around her. But I can't. I literally physically couldn't even do that much. So it was just like I could sit there and just feel silent.
Imagine how helpless you felt.
Yeah,
as well.
it's not even just me, but like it's like, how would all of them have gone through that? You know, I wish I could have had more to say for her, but she's amazing now. Like, she's gone through chemo and stuff. She went through her whole, like, 16 weeks. She did such an amazing job, and each week, like, she battled through it, like, even better and better and better, and hard times, of course, and there's some really, really low points. But, like, I don't think there's anybody in the world, only until you sit back and you experience it in yourself, you see somebody who's so strong, struggling through such a tough time. You then see the strengths that they can transpire to. Like, she is the strongest person in the world, but you don't get to understand other people's experiences of that either until you experience it yourself. You know, I would love to know how people navigate through that, and how they understand what to say and what to do, and other people's experiences of it, like, of those current situations. And it's not talked about enough. That's the thing about breast cancer. That's why I think as well, if it was a more talked about subject, you'd know how to go forward and how to communicate, you know.
It's not even taught in schools. Like, you think that, like, even in secondary school, that they teach you about it, because, like, it affects someone in your life or affects yourself. And even, like, you have to be doing regular checks as well. They don't teach you that in school, or tell you to look after yourself and
Absolutely,
to check.
yeah. Like, I remember there was probably like one SPHE class or something like that, where we had, like, you know, the girls got given out those little things that you hang over your door, and it explains that you have to do but, like, that's not enough. It's
I don't
really
think
just
we even got them.
Really?
No, we
There was
didn't.
nothing
My
for
God.
me personally.
Yeah, no, sorry, my whole leg was wrapped up in the wire. I think, like, yeah, there's literally absolutely nothing really for women's health in younger girls in school and stuff.
Yeah, but that
you
all
know?
boils down to, like, gender bias, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of studies and stuff in the past and still to this day are all based on men. Statistics, studies, like, even for heart attacks.
Yeah.
The anatomy and physiology of women and men are completely different.
Absolutely.
Especially, like, with hormones and muscle mass and all that type of stuff. So to just take on board for the symptoms that a man may experience whilst having a heart attack is going to be the same as a woman is just fucking bizarre to me. Can you curse on this podcast?
Yes, of course you can.
I just think it's crazy. But yeah, like, that's the whole thing of, you know, not enough people, breast cancer and women's health in general, you know, it's still such a taboo subject, and there isn't enough awareness and knowledge or studies done.
Oh my God, absolutely.
You know,
and all of the statistics, I was reading something the other day, and it said breast cancer occurs more, I just found this so mind-blowing to read, occurs more in, like, it was talking about race, it occurs more in white women. It's less likely to occur in people of color, Black women. And then it says something about, like, East Asian, it does occur in some cases of I don't know, I think it was more like Eastern Asian countries, but not Western Asian countries, or something along those lines. But then towards the end of it said this could be due to a dispropriety of screening and testing.
Yeah,
And
it's just
oh my
thinking.
God, I was like, you have just wrote down a whole statistic
And yet
and
it's
you
not even
based it off of the fact that there was accessibility to screening and you know, your biopsies and all those testing. So your whole statistic, literally you said, no, it's null and void because it's only because the people who have accessibility to the screening and testing are of, what's the word? They're
Caucasian
or
origin,
like
yeah.
first world countries and stuff, you know, places where there is more white people and that is the more pronounced race. Like it's so sad. Don't even write it down at that point. Like don't even discuss the race matters then if you're not going to have a good depiction of every side. You're going to have an even amount of every side, and it's going to be but it's
So
never
like
going.
those statistics aren't accurate at all then?
Not at all.
No.
I just couldn't even believe that it was written down, and it was a proper website. And I had seen a few different things that had said about that it being more common in white women. But I'm thinking, it's common in all women, you know, because all women are part of that 1 in 26 throughout their entire lifetime. You know, it's not just the women that you get to see that get treated and then get to even have the mastectomies. You know, they get that far.
Yeah.
There's the women that die and don't even know that it was because of breast cancer. Or, you know, like there's so much, and there's that lack of education causes a lack of screening and lack of further education for the countries that are at a lesser,
And
you
lack
know,
of diagnosis as well.
and the diagnosis and
lengthy
misdiagnosis as well.
Misdiagnosis, yeah.
Such a crazy thing. Like I was looking up a lot of statistics of women having been misdiagnosed, told that there was cysts in their breasts, or they were even denied. And I even saw that some of it was like by female doctors, that like, a lot of people had said that they weren't even brought onto a second stage where they could even have the screenings done to check further to see whether there was an actual lump, or just written off as a cyst, given
They're
like
being medically gaslit.
Sure, I have a friend, and she started to develop really bad pains in her boobs, and she was complaining for months. She went to her GP and she'd done a breast check, and she was like, no, I don't notice any abnormalities. You're fine, you're normal. Sent her home. Couple of months went by. She was still in agony. She kind of had a feel herself and came across a lump. Eventually, she ended up going for a mammogram in the end, and thank God it was benign, so non-cancerous.
Yeah.
She did have a lot of cysts in her boobs, but basically she was like, well, what are my treatment options here? And they were like, oh, just take ibuprofen or take painkillers for the pain. Now, I mean, she was in bits. She was in agony. She couldn't even wear a bra. She couldn't sleep on her side. It was so painful for her. Like, my heart just went out to her. It was so hard seeing her like this. And for her to just be told, okay, although it's non-cancerous, you know, that's a blessing in itself. But, you know, there was no treatment, or you just have to put up with it.
Awful.
Take painkillers and get on with it.
Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I was like 14, and my doctor is actually, I have to give him some credit because he's a brilliant doctor. He's retired now, but he was so good and very on the ball with all this stuff for us. We were blessed that way. But like I had a cyst that grew in my breast. We didn't know what it was. It was like a little frozen pea.
Yeah.
And it was underneath one of the ducts. But like, obviously for me, I was like not going to go and tell my mom that, oh my God, there's like a frozen pea in my boob. This is so scary. And then I had just like messed around with it for months. I know it sounds really bad. Messed around with it months, and then it grew. I remember the day that I started to notice that it grew. Like I had like been really messing with it, trying to get rid of it. Cause like I was like 14, 13. I was so scared, and I was only coming into puberty. I hit puberty late. So my boobs were only starting to develop really at that point. So I was like a little late bloomer. But but I remember then, because I'd been playing with it and stuff, I went into my mom. It had like swelled to the size of like a golf ball.
Oh my God.
And it was really bad, like really, really bad. And we had to go to Dublin, Eccles Street or something like that, and get like scans done. And we found out that it was just a cyst and that it had actually grown an infection. But I remember it being like a circle and hot to touch. And you could see a red circle in my skin of where the cyst was in my breast. Like, and I couldn't lie down. I was in agony. But I had like, you know, like it's just because we're so scared to go and seek the understanding as well. Imagine, you know, you wonder where those things would go and why things go the way they do for certain women. That fear of going and seeking the resources, finding out the information, or being even turned away and told no. you're just overreacting, you're hypochondriacs and all these
But
different
like
things.
when you're
Hysteria.
younger, you're like embarrassed about your body.
Yeah.
You're not taught that like, oh, your body's normal, you're gonna grow up,
Mm.
you're gonna get boobs, this is all natural.
Mhm.
You're taught to cover yourself up, be embarrassed of your body.
Yeah.
So when you go and you find something like that and you're like scared to go say it to your parents,
It's like an abnormality.
it's like half out of kind of embarrassment and
Mm.
half out of like fear of what it is. Do
Mhm.
you know? Like I remember when I was younger, I'd be afraid like to even change in front of other girls in
Mhm.
the swimming pool, or like, do you know, when you go swimming with
Dressing
school,
room.
yeah, in the dressing room, because I was always taught to cover up my body and
Mhm.
like,
Yeah, I think like society, like growing up, you know, you're reading magazines and your MTV was a big thing for our era. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're watching the music videos, and I think the body type
Absolutely.
back in the
Yeah.
kind of late
Oh my
90s, early
God.
2Ks was like Kate Moss, fucking anorexic, you know,
Paris
like
Hilton.
you need
tiny,
to look
tiny.
sick to be, you know,
Size
this
0
skinny.
was it.
Yeah, so we were kind of looking at those beauty standards, and they were romanticized.
I
in a
remember being
sense.
10 and doing this. Like, what 10-year-old
Yeah.
does this? Like, my bones that aren't even fully developed
Yeah.
is doing this.
Me
Like,
and my friends,
makes
like
no sense.
in primary school, we'd be measuring each other's wrists, and
Wrists.
whoever had the biggest wrists was fat.
Awful.
And I had
God.
fat wrists, like I was a little
Yes,
chubby kid, like.
Oh man, it's like it's crazy though.
your
Those little
child
imprint.
thinking that, like, it's so sad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like when you look back at pictures of your old self, you're like, I'd never say that to you. Like,
I
you're like,
know.
how cute you were.
And I think as well now, like in raising children, if we could, like, if you know the whole development process, I would love to see, like, let's say social experiments, and this sounds so like bloody dystopian era, but let's see, like, if we could raise them with the mindset of everything being so natural, like actually
Yeah.
going back to the root of natural and letting natural actually mean what it means, which is natural, you know, like I feel like we've pieced that word or taken that word apart so many times and put it back together to put our own spin on it. But if we actually had a world where natural was natural and our bodies were just our bodies and everything was accepted and understanding are the two things that you really only need in life.
Imagine a world like that, Gertie.
You know what I mean? But like imagine raising your children to
One
that,
can dream.
then you could have that understanding of your body. Then you'd have the education, the acceptance as well to go further and learn.
You're also in touch with your body as well, because I feel like
Hugely.
a lot of women are disconnected from their bodies. You know, and what
absolutely.
you're saying, it's like, how are we supposed to know or understand what's going on when we're not connected to ourselves, you know?
I have so many friends that their parents didn't even warn them about periods. They've come home like that. That's traumatizing. I don't care what anyone says. That's trauma you're going to carry with you for your whole life. You come home and all of a sudden there is a pile of blood. You'd think you're dying. Like that is cruel. Like you have to educate your child on that. You know what's going to happen, and you don't give them the heads up. Why?
My mom did that for me. You know, made me aware of periods before getting one, because that's the first set of my friends to get mine. So.
Yeah, I was the
How old
last.
were you when you first got
11.
yours? Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
14.
14. I was 12.
Yeah.
I just turned 12.
I actually went swimming with my uncle that day and my cousin, and I got it when I came home.
Oh no!
Like,
Oh
could
my
you
God! Thank
imagine?
God! Yeah.
Yeah,
In the
it was a little
swimming
bit
pool.
embarrassing.
But
Not embarrassing, actually. It's the wrong word, but it would be the reaction.
But that's how you'd feel, because that's the way we're taught to think about our bodies. Like even sex education in this country wasn't a thing. You know?
It's fucking awful.
But back to women's health, I'm going to go back to when we were medically gaslit.
Oh yes.
Renee has gone through hell and
guys.
back. Renee, do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. Do you want me to talk about my journey, or just medical gaslighting in general?
We can talk about
Intertwine the both.
Intertwine the both.
Okay.
Your journey with medical gaslighting.
Okay, sure. So, where do I start? It's such a long journey. So, I got my period when I was 12, and I'll never forget. I was lying on the sofa, and I got the most horrific pains. Like before I even started to bleed, the most horrific cramps, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I thought I was dying. I was like, "Am I dying?" I screamed for my mom, and I was like, "Mom!" She came running down the stairs straight away, and I was like, I'm bleeding. And, you know, she was like, oh my God, you know, you've gotten your period. Get me a hug. Was so, compassionate about it. And I just remember feeling so scared, but not in the sense that I was bleeding, because my mom had explained it to me, but the pain was so bad. And I'd said it to my mom, and I said, Mom, like, it's really painful. And God love her, because she kind of suffered as well with really excruciatingly painful periods. So did her mom, and throughout the generations and stuff like that. So for her, her reaction to me saying that my periods were painful was, that's normal. Like, this is
because that was her normal.
Yeah, like, unfortunately, sweetheart, you're just going to have to go through the pain. This is what women get every month, which it's not. Pain is not normal. So over the year, like, every period I got would have been really painful, but over the years they would have progressively gotten worse. So I'd say by the time I hit 16, I was then kind of
pain.
Yeah, I was old enough to go on the pill. So I remember going to the doctor and explaining, my pain and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, we'll put you on contraceptive pill or synthetic hormones or whatever. So I was like, okay, didn't really know. Like, the thing that baffles me the most is I was 16 and my doctor was just like, there you go. There's this hormonal contraceptive pill, synthetic hormones, not explain anything to you of what it is, what the side effects are, it just baffles my mind. But anyway, so I was on and off birth control for years, trying different ones and stuff like that. But the pain was still coming through with the birth control.
So it wasn't working.
So although my periods were suppressed and the bleed was suppressed, I was still experiencing pain. So not only was I experiencing pain on my period, I was experiencing pain throughout the whole month.
Oh God, okay.
So like ovulation, like when I did get my period, I would literally like horrific. I couldn't, like, I won't be able to leave the bed. I've lost consciousness multiple times. I'd be vomiting.
I'm getting goosebumps. I've had like one period or two periods ever where I've gotten to that point. So the fact that this was your life, I'm like, oh, I feel so sorry for you.
I used to have to go to A&E nearly every month.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Because the pain was that terrifying. And I guess I never complained about it. I just put up with it because I was always just told, this is normal. This is what women go through. And in my group of friends, we never really spoke about periods and how everyone is impacted by their periods as well.
See, periods is a real stigmatized subject.
Yes.
Like, so you wouldn't talk about it in school.
Yeah, so taboo. So I guess June has just passed and I just got my diagnosis for endometriosis. It took me 7 years.
You only just this June?
Mm-hmm.
You only just got your diagnosis this June?
7 years.
You're 24.
Yeah.
And you've been going through this since you've been getting periods?
Yeah.
Like, that is just
I've
crazy.
dealt with numerous different doctors. I can't count how many doctors. I can't count how many gynaes. Where I'd go to them and explain my symptoms. I'd never heard of endometriosis, so I've only known about endometriosis about kind of 5 years. And that was from a girl, shout out if you're watching, you know who you are. I used to go and get my lashes done by her and she had endometriosis. And I remember going for an appointment and I was in agony. And I think I was like 10 minutes late and I was like, I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm just, going through a really shit time at the moment. And I kind of, when you're going to get something done, it's kind of like a little talk therapy.
Yes, therapy session.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
So
what's bothering you?
Yeah, so I was like, like I'm in bits and I'm so bloated and I'm 6 months pregnant and da-da-da. And she was like, have you ever heard of endometriosis? And I was like, yeah, what?
Endo who now?
Endo who? Yeah, endo who?
Who's Endo?
Yeah, she was basically like, I have it, you should really look into it. I don't want to say that I don't want to diagnose you, but maybe look into it. She goes, just be careful because there's a lot of misinformation out there about the disease. She goes, I can send you on some articles to look up and do a bit of research. And if you feel like this resonates with you, go to your doctor. She was like, I'm just going to say, I'm just going to give you a heads up. Like, it's not going to be easy. If you do think that you have this, it's not going to be an easy journey for you.
You have a battle ahead.
Yeah, and that's what happened. So I done my research. I went to my doctor, well, one of my doctors, and when I was explaining my symptoms, this is where medical gaslighting comes in.
Mhm.
So I was told it's IBS. And I was like, this was in A&E actually. And I was like, well, can you explain to
I
me
told you the IBS.
the uterus, like I'm getting cramps in my uterus. So you're trying to tell me that that's IBS. Don't try and tell me that's IBS.
They're trying to
And
dismiss you and get you out of the
yeah,
area.
I was told it's IBS. I was told, are you sure you're not over exaggerating?
Oh
Are you
my
sure it's not in
God.
your head? Like they sent me to see a psychiatrist because they thought it was psychological, my pain. So I kept fighting and kept fighting. Over the years, I did, because I was being medically gaslit so much by different
Yeah, I
doctors,
was
I
gonna say, you
genuinely started to
believe.
believe that.
That's what I was gonna say just there when you said that people were saying like, are you sure it's not in your head? At some point, you would get so worn down by being physically the physical ailment of your, you know, whatever, your endometriosis. What would you even call that? Like a, what's the name on that? What would you call it? Like an illness?
Oh yeah, it's a
Oh,
chronic
yeah.
illness.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
chronic
illness.
illness.
Yeah.
So because of that chronic illness and the ailment that it causes to you on a daily basis, that's going to already bog you down. You know, mentally, you're already going
Yeah.
to be at a lower kind of vibration
Yeah.
mode.
And
But then people constantly saying it's in your head, that's only going to bring you further and
You're gonna
further
doubt
down the slope.
yourself. You're
Yeah.
gonna doubt yourself and be like, well, is this actually happening to me or am I just a bit
It's
crazy?
kind of like that
and
imposter
I
syndrome
did,
that we were just
yeah.
talking about.
I did for years kind of doubt myself and go, maybe it is in my head. Maybe, you know, it is psychological, or maybe my pain isn't that bad.
So
you know?
cruel.
It was rough. I'm not going to lie, it was rough. But, you know, maybe I should explain endometriosis a little
Yes,
bit so
absolutely.
people understand fully, because there is a lot of misinformation out there about the disease.
Mhm.
Even doctors giving out information that's incorrect.
Mhm.
You know, online resources, you know, like Mayo Clinic and stuff like that,
Yeah.
are incorrect.
They're
There have
awful.
been advocates, Irish advocates, Kathleen King, Amy Brown are massive ones
Mhm.
who have fought to have, you know, what would you call it?
Information to be changed.
Yeah, like
Fact checked.
fact
Yeah.
check it, because you can't have shit up
Everything
that's
needs
incorrect.
to be fact checked, but like that's just the issue with the internet.
Yeah, so basically, like, a lot of people think endometriosis is a gynecological disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And although it is associated with the uterus or
Yeah.
the womb and bad periods, that's just only a minor
Mhm.
part of it. So it's a whole body inflammatory disease.
Okay.
Endometriosis is basically tissue similar to the lining of the uterus, but not identical to,
Grows outside.
starts to form in other parts of the
Yes.
body. Now, predominantly in the pelvis, it starts to form like scar tissue, adhesions. It can form fibroid cysts.
Yeah, I read about that.
Like chocolate cysts, endometriomas, I think they're called. And yeah, it basically spreads like wildfire. But it's not just the pelvis that it's found in. It's been found everywhere in the body, apart from the spleen. It's been found even as far as the brain, in the
Wow.
eye,
Oh my
the
God.
calf, like in your muscles and everything.
Wow.
So why are
Yeah.
they saying that it's just like a reproductive problem? And why are they saying it's just the uterus if it's all over your body?
Yeah. So like that's the thing, because it's associated with the womb. I think there can be a lot of kind of misconceptions.
Yeah.
Um,
And can this only occur in women? This tissue?
in small cases, it has been found to occur in men as well.
Okay.
Oh, really?
In small cases, yeah. But online they will tell you that it only occurs in women. This is the
Yeah.
problem,
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, so for me, I knew I had endometriosis. It was just a matter of fighting against these doctors that were telling me I'm crazy and getting a diagnosis. So Joe Duffy has actually been broadcast on a lot about endometriosis the last week
Yeah.
on his talk line, and Amy Brown was on chatting, and one of the phrases, one of the quotes she actually mentioned, I just thought I really resonated with it. It was I have it written down, hold on, my notes.
I just think this is mad that it's so misinformed
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
going on.
So we are regarded as unreliable witnesses to our own suffering. You
Oh
know?
my God.
So that's where I had to take matters into my own
That's like a
hands.
blowback, isn't it? That's like a real
Start
setback.
researching the whole thing myself and basically become my own advocate. You know?
And you shouldn't have to do that.
No, you shouldn't.
Do you know, like, this is the biggest thing. You shouldn't have to be your own advocate. There should be somebody for everybody. And that is the whole point of healthcare, is to care for someone's health.
But this
you know,
is the thing. If
not to deny them of their genuine right just
if
for
a man
further.
went in and was like, "Oh, I'm in agony," he'd be fucking sorted out straight away. And it's like, this is actually something I brought my book. I don't want to bang on the table, but a page that I wanted to read out to you about women in general and gender bias, and also the history to hysteria. Like a lot of kind of like women's problems and stuff like that. Way back in history, it's all boils down to hysteria. So I'll read out this little page.
Yeah.
Okay, so in ancient Greece, physicians referred to the displacement of endometrial tissue outside of the uterus, which endometriosis is, as a wandering uterus.
Wandering uterus.
The social belief was that the womb was the origin of all diseases of women, and as such, it should be confined and controlled. The word hysteria is derived from the Greek language and it means womb. Aristotle believed that hysteria was caused by a discontented uterus and excessive emotions in women, which is why he thought women were unfit to be in politics. Women had no independent existence in ancient Greece and were always under the control of their father or husband, which is still known today.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the traveling community as well. Where was I? Because of their inferior social standing, women's biology was referred to as bad, and therefore their physiology was not factored into the teachings of philosophers like Aristotle. This may explain society's aversion to discussing women's problems even today. The ancient Greeks thought the womb moved in situations of insufficient food, exhaustion, and menstrual suppression. Most of physical and emotional female illnesses during the classical period were described as hysteria. The theory of hysteria and the myth of the wandering womb still holds force some 2,500 years later and continue to influence medical practice and doctors today. For example, ancient Greece is believed that sex and pregnancy were ultimate cures, something that is still promoted today by doctors for endometriosis.
That sex is the cure.
And that when women did not have intercourse, her womb became liable to be displaced and dry.
So we're just basically here for men's pleasure and that we're objects.
It's just patriarchy. It's like, it's a man's world. And this is why we need to speak. This is why, as women, we need to stand up.
I really believe that sometimes men think that women are saying, like, some women, don't get me wrong, are saying fuck men. And you know what? You get bit by a dog, you're going to say fuck dogs. So some women have been bit by men and they're going to say fuck men. Let them, because they might not be saying fuck you to you. They're just saying fuck you to all of you. Choose to take it personally if you will. But don't if you don't. Like, live your life as you will and know that you're the good man that isn't doing these wrong things. But don't take it away from us that this is the way that the world has been set up. This is how it has been. This is not something that's only just started and we're only just starting to become aware of. It's something that we've been biting back for years. Like, what about all the women that were burned at the stake because they were a witch, and all the cats that burned with them, and then
they were healers.
And you know what else? That caused a massive rodent problem and infestation in the world and brought loads of what was it that caused the disease caused by rats?
Oh, Black Plague.
Yeah, and that's because all the cats were gone because not that one.
So the Black Death.
There was something way before that. It was a massive, anyways, it was like a massive infestation of rodents because all the cats were burned at the stake with women, because the women were witches. But the women were witches because they were independent, living lives on their own, away from, there were so many different reasons, but it all dates so far back. You bring it forward into history now, and we're just trying to say, hey, look at this, the synchronicities, look at everything that aligns. It may not be the exact same words, but it's the same font. We've followed the same pattern in different characteristics, different ways. We might have altered to the current society. We might be now have a little bit more power with women in certain areas, but they bog down on others.
Oh,
do you know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
We've
As soon as we get a little bit of a release and they unlatch one side, they slam down the other hatch.
Yeah.
You know,
We've
it's always a
definitely come
control
a long way, I
battle.
think, but there is definitely still a lot of room for improvement, you know, and we're not going to shut the fuck up. We're just going to continue speaking. We're just going to continue fucking
That's
raising
good,
our
though.
voices even more every
your
time
voice.
until we're heard, like, you know. So yeah, I guess like with for me and my personal journey, like, you know, I would consider myself quite a strong person. You know, I can take on a lot, if that makes sense, and I can handle it quite, you know, I would consider myself a strong person.
Yeah.
You've
So-
been going through absolute hell for how many years, and you're coming out the other side and advocating for women. You are hella strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but in the sense that considering that I would think, sorry, I'm mixing my words up a little bit. Like if I consider myself to be a strong person and going through what I went through with doctors and medics, I don't know how someone that, like, you know, if someone who's more kind of, they're very authoritative, you know, they'll listen, you know, they kind of see doctors and stuff like that on a kind of hierarchy.
Position of power,
You know, like, oh my God, what the doctor says goes. Whereas I was like, well, no, they're human at the end of the day. And I don't believe this is true. So I'm going to continue to fight, you know, and I stood my ground. But not everybody has that strength to stand their ground.
That's true too.
And that's why you need to advocate for them. Can I ask you a question? How many endo doctors are there in Ireland?
So this endometriosis impacts 1 in 9 women.
Yeah.
That's the statistics
Unbelievable
that are known
statistic.
of. So diagnosis, on average, it takes 7 to 10 years for a diagnosis alone, let alone treatment options. Okay. So you have women that are suffering with endometriosis and don't even know that they have it.
And they're just passing off as a painful period.
So 1 in 9 women, there's 2 endometriosis specialists in the whole country. Like the statistic, 1 in 9 is more than diabetes, Crohn's disease combined together, asthma combined together. Yeah. Like it's a massive amount of people that are impacted.
2 doctors to 1 in 9 women.
So the problem that you have there, because there's only 2 endometriosis specialists, and really you do need an endometriosis specialist dealing with this disease because it's a whole body disease. You need a multidisciplinary approach.
This is unbelievable. Like even with I didn't do the most extensive research because I didn't really
That's what we have Renee in for.
I didn't have the time, but I also just wanted to understand the basics. But I'm really glad that I got to find out through you rather than even just reading it, because it's definitely going to stick in my head now. The fact that it's a whole body, like I just can't wrap my head around it. It's all I would have ever, like I knew a woman before who had endometriosis and she spoke very freely on it. So that was where a little bit of my information came from. But she was in my beauty course and she was just an amazing woman. Her name is Susie. She's watching it. She's such an amazing woman.
Shout out to Susie.
Yeah. But she would have taught me some of it, but like I would have never known that it was a whole body like
I got my diagnosis in June and they had to do a laparoscopy. So over the years they were sending me for ultrasounds, CT scans, MRIs, and because the endometriosis wasn't being detected on the scans, they were telling me there's nothing wrong with me. So we're doing the ultrasounds, we're doing the CT scans, we're doing the MRIs. They're coming back clear, so you're normal. There's nothing wrong with you. You know what I mean? Fucking gaslighting as well, you know? But the only way to diagnose endometriosis is through laparoscopic surgery.
What is that for people who doesn't know what it is?
It's keyhole surgery.
Keyhole surgery.
Yeah. So
I suppose for laparoscopic, I would assume they do one through the belly button, one down here. It
depends on, you know, they'll initially maybe start off going in both sides here. So with me, that's what they done. They went in at 2 sides here.
They need one for gas as well, though, because they inflate your stomach.
Your belly button. I had one in my belly button as well. Yeah. So the gas, and then they go in and have a look and scope around. They'll find the extent of it, and if they see that, like I was riddled, I've got stage 4. So
Wow.
they'd have to make another
Oh, wait,
incision.
you have definitely, like, you have stage 4 or just in
Yeah,
general?
I got diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. So I have endometriosis growing on my rectum, it's on my bowel, it's on my intestines, it's on my uterus, it's on in and around my fallopian tubes and my ovaries. It's on my abdominal wall. It's on my ureters.
And
It's
had
on
you
my
been diagnosed
diaphragm. It's like I'm riddled. Like,
everywhere?
yeah.
Could it
Had you
have
been
spread?
diagnosed earlier, would that have stopped it from
Yeah,
spreading
and
as far?
this is the thing. Like, if women were listened to and taken seriously, when women or young girls are going in and saying, I'm in pain, you know, can you please do something to help me? If women and young girls were taken seriously, it wouldn't be getting to the extent of women losing their organs, you know, losing their lives, losing their infertility.
Mm.
You know, like for me, it's not just pain that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. So much more on
It's
the line.
the, like, I suffer a lot with my mental health because of it, you know, like really bad depression and, you know,
As you
like
would.
fertility as well is another factor because
Huge.
like I think I was 20 and I hadn't got my diagnosis yet, and the birth control, like synthetic hormones, weren't working for me. And I confronted my doctor about this, and he basically said that, are you planning on having kids? And I was like, I'm 21. No, like I'm not planning. I'm, you know,
Yeah.
and he was like, okay, good. I want to introduce you the GnRH, which is basically induced menopause. And I was like, what? Induced menopause? Like I'm 21? And he like basically handed me this leaflet that had like little to no information
Do you
on
know what?
it.
It just sounds like a write-off straight away off the bat. It just sounds like,
Trying to
you know
find a
what?
quick
Let's get
fix.
this. Let's
Just
get
fob
this
her
over.
off.
How about you just don't have
Felicia.
children anyways, and you just go
But
through
sure, when you're at
menopause?
21, most people don't think about if they want kids or not. So how are you expected to know that?
I
And
didn't
then
know
you
what
have
the
to make a
yeah.
life-changing
I've
decision
been
at
saying
21.
no for the last like how many years to having children, but like I've come to the realization that probably I'll be 33, 34, hopefully in a relationship and probably settle down at that point.
But see, you have
But
the
as
option.
of right now, I'm like, hell to the motherfucking no. I'm not having them in my whole life.
Yeah.
My mindset as of 22 is for the rest of my life, no children. I might get to 33 and change my mind, but I'm going forward with no children in my thing. But now I'm in your shoes. I take the decision to go and get the hormone, like the replacement therapy, and I set myself into induced menopause. And I'm 33 and I meet the love of my life and I can't have children because I did the quick fix that my doctor told me to do.
See,
Yeah.
it's temporary. So the
doctor-
GnRH
okay.
is temporary. It's not like lifelong.
Oh, I thought that was
So
like
I
it was
think
going to just kick you off completely.
No, like it temporarily shuts down your reproductive system. So
But it still have an effect, long-term effect on your body if you take it.
1000%.
I want to
They're
understand as
actually-
well, most of these treatments as well, we don't have the longevity of treatments and testing to be able to have that time backing behind it. You know, like most of the testing that's being done is being done on women that are in their 50s now. So that means we need another 100 years before we get a good grasp of how it has affected people in the last 100 years, you know?
Yeah.
We're never going to know the long-term effects. We only know the
But
immediate
sure,
effects.
like the hospital system as it is reluctant to give people smear tests and stuff that are under a certain age. Like, I know someone that needed
requested a
one.
smear test, and I think I was around that age, 21, and they said no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
I
told
got
my
told
friend
as
that as well.
I think that's ridiculous. Like, but
And like it's like cancer comes in all ages. Not
Absolutely.
even cancer, like endo, all these diseases happen from when you like hit a reproductive
yeah, there's
age.
no age limit.
There's no age
yeah,
limit. So
yeah.
why did they decide, oh yeah, do you know what, you're not getting a smear test till you're 25? Like why
Yeah,
did they
that's
why
what
did they
doesn't
get to
make
decide
sense.
that?
That's
Yeah.
what doesn't make sense. It's because it's seen as a waste of time until you're 25 and you're at the age where it's more than likely it's going to occur. Like what? So you'd much rather have somebody wait until they're 25 and the likelihood of them having it is higher rather than letting everyone check out and make sure that it's caught in good time. You know what I
Like
mean?
if someone requests it, they should be allowed to get one.
Oh, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
what
I
it should
agree.
be.
Yeah,
Like
It's as simple as that as well. I don't know why it would be so difficult.
yeah.
so Renee, so 2 endo specialists to 1 in 9
Yeah.
women.
Yeah. And if not more, again, like I said, because of the misdiagnosis and lengthy diagnosis process of women going and saying that they're experiencing this pain but being dismissed. So there are possibly a lot more women and young girls that have endometriosis, but the statistics are only showing diagnosed endometriosis, which is 1 in 9.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely more. It definitely impacts more,
And
but we just can't say for sure because, you know, we don't know.
in terms of options of where you can go when you get you finally get your diagnosis.
So the problem in Ireland is because there's only 2 endometriosis specialists. You have gynaes that are dealing with endo patients, which is ridiculous because I think what was it? Medics are only trained 10 days in their medical training for endometriosis.
And where did was that online, that statistics, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
I researched it.
research?
So like I got referred from my GP to a gynecologist who then was, you know, I was going to them basically saying like, I think I have endometriosis. Can you please give me a diagnosis? But even still, they made my life like fucking misery. Like it was horrific. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But I'm kind of sidetracking because there's so much like to it. It's so hard to explain. But yeah, so you've got gynaes that are treating endo patients, right? So the problem with that is gynecologists are only trained in ablation surgery, which is basically like a laser treatment.
To remove the tissue.
It's that can remove the tissue, but that's actually really damaging.
Yeah, you can imagine.
It can actually make the pain worse, and it can cause it to regrow, make it regrow a lot faster. So if you think of it like endometriosis, so I have superficial growth and deep infiltrating growth. So superficial is on top, deep infiltrating is growing in the roots. Think of it as like a garden with your plants, okay? Ablation method is when they're coming in and they are removing the superficial layer.
So like a lawnmower coming in and
So a lawnmower, or coming in and chopping the weeds from the surface. But if you have deep infiltrating, you still have the roots underneath.
It aggravates the roots, and the roots just grow more.
It doesn't aggravate it, but the problem is still there.
Yeah,
it regrows back.
And then
Faster?
with ablation, it causes more scar tissue, which causes more problems then, and more issues down the line. So I was offered ablation to be performed on me by gynaes, and I refused. I was like, no.
But see, you're lucky you've done the research. There's a lot of people that be told, from their doctors, this is the best option for you. You go do that.
This is like the biggest part of the whole conversation, is just being told and not knowing your options because of that lack of education.
Women that have
the lack of resources. It just kills me. It kills me.
There's women that have gone through multiple ablation surgeries. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
don't
8,
even
9,
realize what
10.
it's doing to them.
Over the years, it's getting worse.
And the issue's still there.
They have to go abroad because of the failed ablation surgeries.
In Ireland?
In Ireland, that gynaes are performing. Like, imagine, and I'm not comparing, but I'm just trying to give another comparison to try and, to make people relate to it a little bit more. Imagine you had a cancer patient, right? With cancer attacks all the cells in the body, depending on the growth, right? But it's attacking your whole body. A cancer patient is given a multidisciplinary team that gives them, whether it's a nutritionist or, everything to deal with different parts of the body. Endometriosis should be treated the same. It's not just a gynae issue. It's not just a bad period.
So
it's
you
a
need
whole body
through the whole
disease.
body, because it's affecting the whole body.
We need an endo specialist. Like, I'm on the list to see an endo specialist, but because of the lack of specialists and the amount of people who, like, it's 1 in 9, I think I'm looking at like a 3 to 5 year waiting list until I'm at least seen, never mind treated.
So like that will just get worse continually in your body until you get seen.
Yeah. So for me, I've gotten my diagnosis in June, I've been put down on the list for an endo specialist, but I need to be realistic. Like 3 to 5 years, I can't wait that
And
long.
you know, it's horrible as well to say that like the healthcare system in Ireland with this, like this is a very, I don't even want to say obscure issue because it's not even, it's so common.
Yeah.
And this is what I've learned today is how common it is, you know, but
More common than you think.
exactly, but it's so like under the radar.
Yeah.
But how the Irish healthcare system, the results still it still appears to be the same no matter what the issue is, that there's a lack of resource. The fact that you have long waiting lists like that, but why anyways? You know, we have hundreds of doctors, thousands of nurses. I know for a fact it's actually probably because they're all being underpaid and they're leaving the country, stuff like that.
Oh, it's very
But
complex.
also,
Like there is a lot
there's
to
so
it,
many
yeah.
more different tiny sectors that you have to take into consideration. I just can't wrap my head
Like,
around it.
if we had to delve into everything that's wrong with the healthcare system, we would just
Be here for a lifetime.
Honestly.
So it's just
Um,
easier to go into an issue and say we're lacking. Like we're
Mhm.
lacking endo doctors in Ireland.
And the best way
One
to
in
do
9.
it is informing people with
Mhm.
like the right information, you know, so bringing awareness to it,
Mhm.
you know, and that's what I want to do. Like I've had people like say stuff, you know, on my Instagram page, I share a lot about endometriosis. Because I want, whether it's family members, friends, or just girls that I know who follow me,
Mhm.
if they're going through what I went through,
Mhm.
I want them to have that information
That you didn't have.
that I didn't have, that I had to go and advocate for myself
Literally.
and research 7 years for
Mm.
myself, you know? So, but I've had people saying like, oh, it's a bit tension seeking, like she's really like, you know,
Yeah,
doesn't
like,
bother me, like I still
And
do it.
I'm
just be
so
like,
sick
unfollow
of
me,
that.
unfollow me
I
if it's
am
an
so-
issue.
I've
But-
gotten so detached from that side of Instagram of people like
Yeah.
whining and being like, whatever anyone says about my Instagram these days, get fucked.
Yeah,
In
like,
a
I
real
started-
sense, get fucked
I
because
started
it's for a
college,
reason, for a good cause.
I'm doing beauty and body therapy and I'm in my
Oh,
final
I
year.
did that.
Yeah, girl.
Qualified beauty therapist.
Yeah. So, but in my first year, like last year, you know, obviously you're meeting new people and you want to get to
New
know each
bodies.
other. Yeah. And you're going out afterwards and you're going to the pubs, you're going for food and, you know, you're like explaining who you are and
Yeah.
what you're about and stuff like that. And I remember like obviously talking about, because I was going through a really tough time last year with
Oh,
it.
you were having an awful time.
The last 2 years have been horrific, but like thank God I've come out.
Mm.
Thank God I've come out the other side.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I've had a situation where like I wanted to explain to my college friends about endometriosis. So if I was to become really good friends with them, they will have an understanding, you know, of like, because it's hard.
Be
It's
a
not just
support
hard.
network too for
It's not
you.
just hard on the person that's going through the illness. It's hard on like their friends and their family and, you know, everyone. It affects everybody around them. And I even had one girl in my class turn around, like we were playing some drinking game. And I don't know, you know, the one where it's like, it's the whatever for me. And you
Oh,
say it
yeah.
about each person. And it came around to me and I had one girl turn around and be like, oh, it's the endo for me.
Oh, wow.
And the whole table, yeah. Hope you're watching.
What?
Can I say something?
What a bitch.
What a
Sorry.
bitch.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're a bitch.
It's the endo for me.
That is the nastiest.
And the whole table just went quiet. I think all the girls were just shook. And I looked at her and she, like, I could see her face. Like, she was like, she knew she fucked
But
up.
she didn't. Did she care? Like,
She cared after because she knew the
reaction.
Yeah, the reaction of everyone. But I was just so like, I didn't want to make a fucking deal out of it. So I just fucking laughed it off. But you know, when you're in a situation like that and you're looking
That's
back and you're like,
hurtful.
fuck, I wish I stood up to her. I wish I done something like
that's one of your moments, your key moments.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
like,
like-
pick something else. Like, oh, it's the clumsiness for me. Or,
Yeah.
like, to know something. Or
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You don't fucking like you
come at
don't-
someone's illness.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Literally.
chronic
Um,
illness that they're suffering with every day.
like what, fair enough. You know the way like with some friends you're able to kind of
dark humor is
dark humor.
absolutely.
You know where you can go
yous
with
probably
certain
weren't
people.
on
But
that
it already
level.
sounds
Me and
it already
her
sounds like it
aren't
shouldn't have
on
been
that
there.
level, so it was out of order
Oh,
for
wow.
her to say something like that. You know, so yeah, you have people that make comments like this, but
Does not make you really angry?
It
I
does.
am
It
going
makes
to.
like I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my god,
I can see
like,
the like little like you're thinking in your head. I just see this.
yeah.
I see the scrunch of the nose because she's so angry.
I'm coming out. I was going to say it's coming up to an hour. No, I have this thing where like I've really come to this phase in my life where I'm become so live and let live, and other people's like negative views or like their impact and their opinion and how they damn it down on other people's lives and experiences is really starting to boil my blood. Because I'm
Raining
like,
on your parade.
I'm like, hello, let me just like the fact that we are able to have this consciousness, you know, and we have opposable thumbs and we can sing, laugh, dance, we can connect with people, we can drive cars. Like,
you know how I
these are
dealt with it, though?
amazing things.
I dealt with it by constantly reminding myself that they're projecting.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
That's a
I've been
them
doing that a
problem.
lot too.
You
I've been
know,
doing that a lot
that's
too.
nothing got to do with me.
Understanding projection is a huge thing. That's
And
a
it helps.
self-awareness thing
It's
too.
a self-awareness thing. The moment I started to kind of take that on board for myself, especially with, you know, the endometriosis and my journey with it, any fuck that's come, you know, and said shit or what, you know, whatever it was, if it was hurtful or upsetting, don't get me wrong, I would get upset or I might get angry, but I'm not going to dwell on it. And I just remind myself like they're projecting their shit onto you. That's their insecurity. That's a them problem, not a you problem. Let them fucking deal with it. Don't absorb that energy. Send that back to them because that belongs to them. That doesn't belong to you, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
Rebuke. I do that all the time.
namaste.
Yeah.
That is the thing though, that projection, like this is a whole awareness aspects as well. Like I can't seem to, the biggest part of humans is like that whole thing of like fear of trust and fear of letting somebody down, all those different things. But you only have to have understanding and all of these things inwards. You know what I mean? All of those emotions that you have towards other people, you only have to have them inwards in order to you know, make your way through life. So the fear of being able to trust somebody, you don't have to be able to fear whether you can trust them. The fear is that you have to trust yourself and trust that you can pick yourself up afterwards. You know, the fear that you're going to let people in on these situations and they're going to say horrible, nasty things. You just have to trust that you're going to be able to take that in your stride and, you know, get up and dust yourself off. But the one part of that whole accepting part of my life that I've come to, I can't understand now why, when we can do all these great things, one thing I've been showing people, I'm like, we can do this, like it's so cool, like we have opposable thumbs, like it's all amazing, and like our brain is really just a calculator, like our conscious mind is just a calculator. Everything else is running in the subconscious. It just runs into our conscious mind and we do it. So everything, realistically, it's all calculated. I don't get to see how spectacular you are because that's all in your subconscious brain. You're only showing me the consciousness.
Exactly.
It's all been calculated through to right here, right now. But I know how amazing up here is for me. So I live through that knowing, wow, imagine them though. And that person, I can see little sparks of it there, and there. Why can't everyone just see that niceness or just that live and let liveness? Like,
because everyone
we
is
have
here
it for me first.
You know, everyone is going through their own journey, and whatever reason they're put here on earth to live a life, that's their lesson. So you have horrible people, but they need to be horrible in order to, you know, go through that life lesson for, you know, whatever it is. But that's where ignorance is bliss.
Yes. Yeah.
When it comes to that, like
we were talking about that in the very beginning. Ignorance really is bliss, especially
in that
when
sense,
it comes
definitely,
to.
I think this is the end of our hour.
Wow.
It's a pleasure having you, Renee. We'll definitely have to get you on again to talk more about endo because it just sounds like a massive topic.
Loads.
One
more
thing
to
I
talk
do
about
think I want to do really quickly before we end is talking about how to do the testing for breast cancer.
Oh yes, perfect.
Yeah, I think it's really important. So, well, for me, I want people to know. So you have to put your hand in the air.
Okay.
You have to do testing from the top of your armpit the whole way down and around with your fingers scoping down. And then you have to go down and around. You have to go over your nipple around in circular motions, and you have to go from the outside inwards closer. You also have to go down from your clavicle bone, down your décolletage, and into your nipple as well. And you have to do swooping motions, making sure, because you have your lymph nodes here as
Your
well, which can
auxiliary
be
lymph nodes,
can be affected. And you also have like, there's so much.
Okay, and how often do you have to check yourself?
I would say I check myself every day.
Every day.
I'm not joking. I check
Fair play.
myself
Maybe I need
every
to-
day.
I don't check myself
That's
enough.
only happened recently though, because of certain
Obviously,
circumstances. But it's just one of those things as well. I feel like when I'm getting up to get dressed and stuff, and I hop in the shower and I hop out, it's the
become a part of your
quickest. It's the
routine.
quickest little motion. Like, I know I'm just looks like I'm feeling myself up on camera, but it is just such a quick motion just
And
to
when
scoop
you're
myself
feeling,
down.
like, I know you've showed us where to check, but like, how do you feel? You know, like, is there?
So there's different signs. So you can have like like the lumps underneath the breast and in the tissue, but there's also visual checks. So when you pull the skin up, you can have puckering, because you could have a tumor that is in deep, which causes the skin. Puckering is like, it's dimples in the skin.
Dimples in the skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it can also be like your the glands of the skin are vastly inwards.
Yeah.
You can have an inverted nipple. You can have discoloration of your nipple. You can have a rash. You can have those are, if you do have it, those are the visual kind of checks that you can do.
And for women that already have inverted nipples?
Women who already have inverted nipples, I think that would, I suppose it's more than just a thorough check.
Only if it changes. Is
it is. It's more about changing.
Keep an eye on
changes in your breast. It's that awareness, constantly making sure and looking at yourself, and knowing your body.
Yeah.
It's the most important part. The only way that you can kind of combat these things is constantly doing checks. And it doesn't even have to be like, oh my God, I'm checking that I don't have breast. It's just checking that I'm all good. It's not even putting that big damned scary C word on it. It's just checking that my body is the way that it has been, and hoping that it remains that way. Same with cervical cancer and checks all down there. Those are all important checks that need to be done too, that we don't do enough.
Yeah.
We just talked about smears. We can't do that as often as we'd like to, but trying to get ourselves in there and understanding our body. And you did an amazing job.
Yeah,
I think.
and if there's anybody that's watching that may think that I didn't get to go through the symptoms or anything, but if there's anybody that thinks they may have endometriosis, like, please feel free to reach out to me. Like, I will do anything I can to help. If there's any information or guidance that I can give, I'm more than willing to help, because I know what it's like to go through. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to drop my name in the...
Yes, we will have it, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. We'll put it in the description.
Oh,
and we'll be tagging you in all the stories anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so
Guys,
good.
That's such a nice episode.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, everyone. Don't
Thank
be
you.
afraid to reach out to us now.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye. That one was heavy. I learned
very heavy.
so much. So was I.
You're
I rambled through that beginning. I was like, this is my whole experience.